Thank you for joining us for reimagining the conference room with Zoom rooms. We appreciate you coming out this afternoon. We know our session tomorrow filled up, so thank you for coming this afternoon for this first session of this. My name is Dan Kurzman. I'm a senior sales engineer with the enterprise team. Joining me is my colleague Derek Rude, also a sales engineer on our enterprise team. We're going to bring some guest speakers up in a few moments, but before we do that, we just want to do a very quick overview of what Zoom rooms are for those of you who have not used them before or have not deployed any. So Zoom rooms, if you're not familiar, is our software-defined conference room solution. We're going to deliver HD audio and video and collaboration to any conference room space you want using off-the-shelf components. A typical Zoom room is going to consist of a few key pieces: your compute, Mac or Windows computer, a tablet, Apple, Android, or Windows OS, and then the peripherals of your choice: mic, speaker, camera, typically USB-based. We can go higher end audio, etc. But what's great about Zoom Room is you can equip any room to meet your needs and your budget, all with off-shelf components. With our seamless integration with Exchange, Office 365, and Google Suite calendaring system, we're going to bring one-touch scheduling and one-touch launching of your meetings to Zoom Rooms, making it the easiest user experience in any conference room. And of course, my favorite, as we deploy large enterprise across the country, across the world, a single pane of glass to manage those Zoom Rooms. With our enterprise management, you're managing the configuration, the settings, notifications, and alert monitoring, all from a single pane of glass in your Zoom admin portal. So where is Zoom Rooms best deployed? Anywhere, everywhere. From your one-person telephone rooms with a touchscreen all-in-one Zoom room, to your executive boardrooms, your training spaces. You've seen several of these on our expo floor today. You can fit Zoom Room anywhere, which makes it the most versatile conferencing solution. Also included with your Zoom Rooms, you will have seen this on the expo floor as well: scheduling displays. Don't need to buy another third-party solution for that. It's included with your Zoom Room. Just add a tablet outside of your conference room. You can book your rooms from this tablet. You can see what's going on in those rooms. Some of our partners, such as Crestron, are bringing other peripherals like lights that you can put on the wall above these tablets, so you can walk down a hall and see which rooms are green or red. You can check in right from that iPad as you walk into your room, and if you don't check in, that room will release itself, allowing someone else to book it through your calendar or right from that tablet. Also with your Zoom Room license, digital signage. Picture files, YouTube links, other URLs. We now release the ability to upload your own movie files. You can display any content you want on these conference room screens when not in meeting, whether that's your marketing collateral, your meet the new employee, your activities and events in the office. You choose, you manage that again, all through your admin portal to push this content out in groups individually to your screens, managing your entire organization around the world, content from one point of entry. And my favorite piece about digital signage, you can bring them into Zoom meetings. So when you're doing your CEO all hands, invite that screen into your meeting, whether it's a conference room or just a screen in the hallway. Bring that into your meeting, expanding the reach and audience for your all hands meetings. And again, with your Zoom Room license, you can deploy as many digital signs around your organization as you'd like. All you need is a computer to go behind a TV and you're set. So that's our basics on Zoom Rooms. I do have a few pictures of some rooms we've deployed with customers. You'll see some common themes in these rooms. They're clean, they're organized, there's no cables or dongles or adapters on the table. Zoom Rooms do wireless sharing. And with Zoom running on your laptop, we do one-touch sharing. Click the share button on your laptop and wirelessly share to your room. You've got your camera, your tablet, your displays. Small form factor PCs are typically hidden behind the TVs, out of sight, out of mind. A very simple, easy user interface for your users. So with that, I do want to introduce our guest speakers now. We've kind of structured a bit of a Q&A with some current customers. We'll bring them up to the stage, and then after that, we'll have an open Q&A with a mic being passed around the room if you have any other questions we don't cover today. So if you could join me on stage, please. Christopher Rogers, Senior Vice President of IT and Security at Sykes Enterprises, a longtime customer, and Greg Martin, Senior Manager of Corporate Voice and Video at NASDAQ. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks. Right.
All right, so we'll just jump right into some questions. So tell me, Christopher, what's your story in reimagining your conference room? How did you, what did you start with? How did you end in Zoom? How'd you find Zoom? What led you to choose a conference-defined solution or software-defined solution for your conference rooms?
Okay, so I'll do about 8 years in about 4 minutes.
Perfect.
How about that? So I think unlike a lot of the people I've talked to, Sykes's journey actually started with the conference rooms, the video conferencing rooms, rather than the individuals, and then moving on. We really started our video conferencing journey in 2009. We'd seen some benefits before that, but I mean, let's face it, you had big CRT TVs on what were basically mail carts with low-end crappy cameras, and nobody wanted to use them. They defaulted to the phone. And then both a vendor and a client of ours, y'all will quickly know who that is, invited us in to see their kind of triple panel immersive experience. And we really saw the future of video conferencing and what it was going to do for our organization by being in that experience. Now that particular solution we had some issues with in terms of it required a dedicated use room, dedicated bandwidth. It was very expensive. So it wasn't the right solution for us, but it was definitely where we were going. So with that, we set on our own journey. Dave Pearson, our CIO, Shelton Hook, our VP of Application Development, and Mike Davis, kind of our mad scientist, IT R&D guy, spent a good year. We rented a room in our building. We did layouts, ended up building and designing our own solution. It was based on a life-size codec, custom designed and contracted furniture, off-the-shelf 3 Sony webcams, 3 television unit, internally developed software from our team to run the codec and the machine from a tablet. Custom designed scheduling solution, integrate with SharePoint, a wonderful sound system all put together with a bi-amp, a great solution for us at the time. And then we needed to seed that to get it into use. So we built the first one in corporate. Corporate actually paid to seed some money out into our regions because they run their own P&Ls to overcome some objections. And then within like 3 years, we were running close to 150 of these rooms around the world. But we also knew we needed to go cloud. I think that was second part of your solution. One, that was where the industry was going. Two, I mean, the ACLs, oh my God, the ACLs. I mean, the network. We're a global company, about 22 different countries. Just the network management of these, as well as the fact that we had to then get to patch, to administer, to change, to upload. It was way too much. And it was the interoperability with others was a struggle. So at that point, we needed to be able to bring folks in that didn't have to come in just to our rooms because it was kind of foundational to how we were doing business. So we found a cloud provider and used them as a bridge for our outside and inside meetings. Again, experience was okay, except you lost the benefit of a second or third panel because everything got restricted into the middle one. And we didn't have a lot of kind of product roadmap with these folks. So we went into a shootout, 2 cloud video providers. Zoom was not one. Lo and behold, we got a help desk ticket from someone out in the field that Symantec was blocking an application, and looked at that, and it was Zoom. And at about the same time, our CEO happened to be at a site where one of our managers was playing it. I took a look, thought it was great, pulled it into our video shootout between our IT folks and our other folks. And our power users, Zoom was the clear winner. That was in early 2014. And I mean, lo and behold, once we made that decision, bada bing, bada boom, 4 years later, 125 plus rooms, 10,000 users, about 5 million minutes a month we're doing with Zoom.
Fantastic. Sounds like those early setups were a bit of a headache with different brand hardware, software in-house, deploying and manage those across your network, across the world. So we kind of simplified the entire process coming to Zoom Rooms for you?
Correct. Yes.
Great.
All right, Greg, along the same lines, can you tell us about NASDAQ's kind of journey, evolution, kind of around reimagining the conference room? What was your conference room strategy prior? And I guess what ultimately led you to Zoom's offering?
Sure. So NASDAQ is a pretty secure company. So we were on-prem for everything. We had a bridge in our East Coast data center and then a bridge over in Stockholm. And it was all codecs, which is very expensive. And the other piece of it was it didn't integrate with Outlook. So there was 2 places to schedule meetings. So you schedule in one system and then bring it over to Outlook, then you do your invite to everybody else. So it's very clunky that way, but it was super secure and the meetings ran well on network. We ran into problems when we have outside clients, which through the years have gone up and up and up, where we have to do meetings outside and we just don't allow anybody to dial into us. We also had no portal out, so we'd have to have a firewall open and then connect to an outside bridge and have that system connect to the same bridge. It presented a lot of issues for our sales teams, our marketing, and then our listing teams as well. The maintenance contracts on it too were super expensive. I believe a couple $1 million every 2 years. So the more we grew, NASDAQ is a worldwide company. We have, I'd say, about 50 locations, and every location has several systems in it and rooms. And with the purchase of OMX years ago in Stockholm, that introduced us to the open platform for office space. So a lot of huddle rooms, and that became very expensive. So we did an in-house solution where we laid the codec over a mini Dell and put that out into all our rooms. But still, it was very clunky and just not user-friendly. Fast forward to today, and we are a new Zoom customer, and we only have about 10 rooms right now out of about 90 that are Zoom. And now users are starting to see that, hey, I can just go to Outlook and integrate right with my scheduling tools. And yeah, that's where we are going
So it sounds
forward.
like you guys had a lot of those challenges that you oftentimes see in the industry just around scheduling, even joining, some of those basic things that I think Zoom Rooms really help.
We did, and going into the cloud was a very scary thing for NASDAQ. We don't like going outside for anything. We wanted everything on-prem. Our new CEO and our CIO are very open to pushing the envelope. Our new motto is innovation. So anything innovative, they want us to bring in. Zoom is really one of our first steps into that platform and really opening us up. So security was a huge issue and took a while, but we're still full speed ahead now.
That's great. I remember when we hosted you and your team in Denver and we're showing a bunch of the different rooms we have there in our Denver office. Several of your team were very excited as they were looking at the rooms and the different components we had on the tables, and we're looking behind the TVs. Why was utilizing commodity hardware so important and exciting for the NASDAQ guys?
Yeah, so like I said before, at first it was all codecs, appliances, but it got too expensive. So we had to create our own systems on Dell Minis with little Logitech cams and everything. So as we were in that meeting, we saw that the platform that we put out was already approved for Zoom. So we were able to lay these Zoom rooms over, and right now we're having a huge influx of people asking us to put Zoom rooms in, and it's getting a little ahead of us. We're not quite ready because we need to make sure it's a good solution and it's rolled out properly so that people know how to use it and don't just go in and mess up the deployment of it. But yeah, the great thing is I think we have about 50 of those rooms out there, a lot of little huddle rooms that we have. So it takes us about 30 minutes to convert a legacy room into a new Zoom room, and we're good to go. And we're just going to have to add in the scheduling piece, which we have a ton of little iPads, so we're excited to put those out there. And our customers, which are our employees, are really excited to be able to just walk up to a room, hit reserve and walk in, or the simple thing like self-service. We are white glove for every single meeting. So my staff I have staff on the horn 24/5 because we have to bring up and bring down every single meeting. So now people are seeing these Zoom rooms and they can just walk in and have someone in Denver walk into one room and in New York walk into another and just call each other. Much easier.
All right, Christopher, you said you guys have been a customer now for 4.5 years?
4.5 years.
Approximately. So I'm sure along the line, everything hasn't been just smooth sailing, to say the least.
All rainbows and unicorns.
Yes, of course.
Obviously not.
So along the lines, I mean, what were some of the hurdles that you faced just when deploying Zoom rooms? Now, how did Zoom help you get by that, and just help with that, and then how just moving forward? I guess how have things been going just as you've been deploying additional rooms?
Sure, and it's interesting because I know there's a lot of different sessions, but depending on which ones people have been to, there's going to be a theme I think you'll see as I answer that. I heard it in the digital signage presentation earlier, the one I just came from before this on the innovation through consolidation of Zoom kind of partnering and working with you, and so that's the good news. No, it's obviously not been all rainbows and unicorns. I'll spend most of my time on the challenges with rooms because that is what this session is about. But in all transparency, we were with you as a very early customer, and we felt that. There were billing issues. We couldn't do the billing coding the way we needed to be able to then allocate costs internally. Every single new user or new feature generated an additional bill. So literally in our period of rapid expansions, we were looking at dozens of bills a month, and the fact that for like the first 6 months that we were with you, it was on my personal credit card and expensed, made for a lot of expense reports rather than just a few. And then when you switched your billing system, it was a nightmare. I mean, I ended up having to talk to Eric, the CEO, and said, I need some help here. And he said, if you don't have a bill by the morning, your next year's free. And I had a bill by the next morning. But they also told me why, right? And they listened. And Zoom kind of came through and put some fields for some codes I needed. I told you we were already heavily reliant on video conferencing in general before Zoom. So once we took those 100+ rooms and kind of converted into a Zoom solution, we were already heavily reliant on how we did business. And one of your engineers took the entire system down, everything down. But again, it was an internal IT change management issue at Zoom. They were transparent. They told us what happened. They gave us the RFO. They gave us the after action report, what was going to change, and then they delivered. So now rooms. The biggest issue for us with rooms is your product just didn't do what we wanted it to do. Because we were long-term video conferencing and we had built our own, you kind of get spoiled when you build your own because you get to build the features exactly the way you want them. It doesn't mean they're right. It just feels right. And there wasn't a triple panel solution when we came with you. And the heart of our global communications was triple panel rooms. Mm-hmm. And it didn't exist. The layouts that we wanted, some of the features that we wanted, it just, you weren't there yet. Now what you were was fast and good video quality and low bandwidth and low resources on the PC and in the cloud and away from networks. You were all these beautiful things we were looking for. The features of the product just weren't where we needed them to be. Again, now I'm going to go directly back to the digital signage and to the one I came from. It was this is where Zoom shined and why they're such a partner with us today. I met monthly with our internal R&D director, with Eric John and Nick Chong, who at the time wasn't services, used products, so his roles changed. And we explained, here's our use cases, here's what we want. We actually delivered detailed design documentation to go with our use cases to get the product to some of the features where we were looking for. And what I loved about the way Eric and Nick approached those meetings is they were brutally honest with their vision for where this company was going. And if something we asked for didn't fit the vision of where the company was going, they were like, we're not doing that. It's a great idea. I understand why you like it. It may have worked for you. That's not our vision. We're not going to do it. I respect that. But if it did fit with the vision of the company and or potentially even advance the user experience, then not only did they listen, but they gave us dates, they gave us revisions, they committed, they told us what rev it was going to be, when it was, they delivered or told us what was going to be accelerated or not. And after about a year, those meetings became a lot less necessary and so not very frequent. But that year was essential to kind of show that partnership. And now as new needs and use cases come up, there's managers in both of our organizations that kind of talk through. So it's that theme of partnership. And I think it's this visionary video conferencing company that met a video sophisticated user company, not product, but user. And I just think they did an exceptional job.
No, that's great. I think if some of you don't realize this already, reach out to your CSM, reach out to your salespeople or SE when you have those ideas and those concepts and those features, because that's what I've liked about Zoom. I came from a customer before coming on board as an employee, and we stand by the feedback from our customers. The majority of the feature requests you'll see released on any given month are coming directly from you guys. So if you have those ideas, as Christopher and his team did, reach out to your CSM, get those feature requests submitted, because that's how we continue to grow and enhance our product. Absolutely.
Yeah. Next question, Greg. And I know you guys are still pretty early, not quite 4.5 years in, like Christopher.
Yep.
But you mentioned you did have around 10 Zoom rooms. You have plans for additional. With that said, what impact do you anticipate Zoom rooms having on your end users, meeting spaces, and just conference room management in general?
Yeah, so a lot of our conference rooms only get used by executive level or VP above because people just aren't used to booking the rooms. They know they have to go through the white glove service. They can't just walk into a room and use it. So the more we roll out Zoom rooms and people are seeing that they can just walk in and use a room anytime they want as long as it's available, it's going to increase the productivity of those rooms. So we're working with facilities right now they're trying to determine the use of rooms and how many people are coming in them. And we actually walked around today and saw a couple of the Panicast and Logitech cameras that can actually see the facial recognition and count the people that are in it. So we're going to be able to utilize that with facilities to better use rooms. And we're also going to advertise a little more. We never advertise any of our tools that we use, just because we don't want to get overwhelmed, and I can't overwhelm my team because it's small. There's only 6 people running every single meeting, so we just can't handle all that. The other thing is people will be able to be more, they'll be able to use the rooms a lot more with the walking in and wirelessly sharing everything.
It's like magic.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that people will walk into rooms and they can share in most rooms now, as long as there's a cable there. The problem that we have that happens all the time is those cables walk away. People steal them all the time. We don't know where they go, why they do it. But yeah, it's just a pain to deal with all the cables. So we're looking forward to utilizing our rooms in a better way. And even people buying level. None of my people are in the same location. I have people all over the world. So I run all my meetings on Zoom Room, so I can see the expressions, and the meeting goes so much faster. It's going to take a while for that to sink into our employees, but once they see it, I think they're going to just change the way they do conferencing and the way they do deal with their employees. So looking forward to it.
That's great. Christopher, a question for you. How has utilization and adoption of your conference rooms changed since you moved into Zoom rooms from your previous solution? And how's that transformed your overall collaboration and communication efforts?
Well, I'll expand just on Zoom rooms and talk more about Zoom in general, including our rooms. Zoom is how we do business. That's the easiest way that I know how to put it. We were already relatively video centric in our conference rooms. Then we made those into Zoom rooms, which made them so much easier and more interactive, more interoperable with other systems. Then by expanding Zoom to our individual users, Zoom just is how we do business. More 50% of my direct reports don't live in the United States. I have a dual panel Zoom room in my office. I spend, without exaggeration, 2 to 5 hours a day, probably more 4-ish as an average, on Zoom meetings. It is assumed inside of Sykes when you get a meeting request that it is going to include a Zoom room and a Zoom bridge. It is how staff meetings are done, quarterly business reviews, all hands meetings, all individual meetings. It's just how we do business today. And the other thing that I think it's done is it's allowed for more collaboration and I think everybody will be able to relate to this too if you're in a nationwide organization or a global one. You want to have these collaborative planning sessions. But if you want to bring everybody into them, you've got travel costs and people's time. So you want to have the large enough group to be helpful, but not too large for travel costs and bring them together. Well, we still do that. But what it's done is it's allowed us to expand a whole lot more people into those. I can't honestly say that Zoom's ROI is in travel reduction. It's been too many years and there's too many variables. But now when we have a whole lot more large group meetings, a lot more. Because who wants to be in a large group meeting around an old, spider phone audio call? Nobody does. But bringing those people into the meeting is great. So we have a lot more large group collaborative. And then even when we have a lot of physical meetings, it allows participation from others. So for example, we just had our global IT planning session. All of our senior executives come to that. One of them couldn't because of a client meeting. I used a mobile Zoom room at the conference center where we were. I can come back to mobile Zoom rooms later. And then our senior executive there meaningfully interacted with our global team from his hotel room in Australia. And then I guess as an IT and security lead, the best way to figure out the success or not of your system is your end user feedback. It just is, no matter how technically cool it is. And a couple of things on that. One, if Zoom goes down, it's not like a help desk ticket. I mean, it's vocal, it's escalated fast, and it's escalated high. So that's the negative example of kind of the importance. But I was in our 2019 global operating plan meetings all of last week, and I mentioned after a lunch break for one of them, I was coming to do Zoomtopia this week, and like 2 of the executives immediately said, if you want a quote, I'll give you one. And then this same another person in the room the week before, just again to kind of show you the cultural impact, he was in a meeting and about to share content. He just shook his head and said, I don't know why everybody doesn't use this product. So it is just, we've given up all of our, almost 100% of our global teleconferencing. I mean, I know almost nobody in the company that even does anymore. And Zoom is how we work.
Fantastic.
No, that's great, and just it really shows the power of how Zoom can help transform organizations, whether it's the conference room or not, but just overall, and it's a great story. I guess speaking around that transformation, just of collaboration, what's next? What do you see as next in the conference room, kind of as part of that evolution, and how do you see Zoom fitting into that?
Is that still me?
Yeah.
That's you. Sorry. Okay. Yes, Christopher.
I can't tell the line of sight goes. We're always trying to think what's next, and I can give you some ideas on what we're looking at, but a lot of that is what sessions like this. I'm really excited to hear tomorrow. I like meeting, talking to Greg through all of this, others what they're trying to do. The rooms and Zoom are so important to how we do business. We and our users are always looking for that next step. Has anybody found that your users, when you give them something that's better, easier, and cheaper than what they had before, then their expectations get higher for even something better and easier than what they had before. Okay, I'm glad that's not just me. So more use cases are coming in. You know, we're really looking to make the experience more immersive. If I want to get a little bit sci-fi, this is an idea from mine, but I'm kind of excited to kind of see where the industry may be going with things like augmented reality and meetings. We're not ready to do anything like that, but I kind of want to look and see where it goes. We're really looking at the concept of this mobile Zoom room. That's a couple of different use cases for us. One of them is basically building a Zoom room on a cart, kind of a fancy cart that remains in a facility that can be easily transitioned from room to room or area to area within a facility. That's pretty easy to build. We've built that. We need Zoom's help and your hardware partners' help in making that increasingly wireless. The wireless Mac, you know, Mini is easy enough, but there are no Zoom-approved wireless or Zoom-approved or recommended wireless audio solutions right now, and we feel that. We've kludged a couple together, so we can use some help there. And then the other thing is we want our solutions a little more portable. I sometimes take what I call my Zoom kit with me to some meetings at the Chamber of Commerce or up at a charity I'm involved with. Some of the guys on my team bring a little bit more substantive mobile solution to like some of our conferences to set up. But we'd really like to work with Zoom and the other hardware partners to kind of make that more smooth, easier, more transportable as we kind of go forward. And those are probably the largest areas for. Oh, no, I tell you what else. I want more control in the rooms on the layouts on the screens. And I'll tell you a couple of things. One is kind of funny, and the other one I actually mean. So as we get bigger and bigger screens, because in our executive boardroom we have 3 90-inch televisions right now, I want the ability to scale the tiles and the people, because normally what's going to happen is, say, let's take a meeting in our executive boardroom. There's going to be a combination of other Zoom rooms in the enterprises that have joined and some individuals that have joined. Well, obviously, I want the other rooms to be bigger than the individual. And imagine a day when, you know, we're at 160-inch television, and it's not that too hard to imagine. I don't want the active speaker to be, you know, a giant, like, you know. So we need to be able to scale those. And then, so I kind of mean that as a joke, but we actually are worried about it. But then the serious part that goes along with that is I really want my end users to have more control over the layouts on any individual screen and across the screens. So sure, we can go into the admin portal now, or the guys that are allowed to go touch that because they don't let me touch it can go into the admin portal and do that. But I want the end user on that tablet to be able to drag around who they want, what they want, maybe a little pinch and zoom on any one screen, lock it down and have that be their experience for that meeting. And as we get to larger and larger televisions, other than camera angles, which is going to be a problem, then I believe your quadrants of the screens are going to become a bigger deal. And so we really want to turn even more control over to our end users. We're far from the white glove service we were, but we're not anymore. I want to turn even more control over to our end users.
That's great. So thankfully, we're cloud recording our meetings, and I'm going to pull the transcript from this and submit some feature requests for you Monday morning.
Amen.
So that's great. And also, I know when we were talking previously, you talked about whiteboarding and things like that in the conference room. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, go check out our conference room demo out there. Captiva, one of our partners, has their...
That's actually why I didn't mention that.
Yep, their
saw a
whiteboard
solution I wanted
captures
to
out there.
watch.
Go check it out.
So.
And check out our train rooms. I know we're doing some stuff with Shure and other partners around wireless mics now and some virtual sound cards and things like that that may play well into some of your mobile conference room ideas.
So we are actually testing. We actually, Zoom and Shure and our AV company we use came out for a day and installed the Shure array for our executive boardroom. So I'm kind of excited to see how that works. That's not wireless. It's wired. It just doesn't involve a lot of mics on the table. That I appreciate. That's a big step forward if this works. And the test was really good. But when you kind of go mobile, I mean, we've found some good luck with some Sennheiser mobile units, one Bluetooths to the to the Mac Mini, the other two Bluetooth to it. They're like $5,000 a kit, and Zoom doesn't certify them, but they work okay. And that's where just want us to partner a little bit more for how do I get truly portable. My rooms that are fixed rooms, we're just going to work with y'all and rock and roll those to be the most immersive experience we can. I need something with more flexibility.
Absolutely. No, that's great information. Thank you, Christopher. So, Greg, similar question for you. What's the evolution of Zoom Rooms for NASDAQ? What's the future and the vision look like for you guys?
So the immediate evolution is to actually deploy the Zoom Rooms more. We only have a few out there, but we've put out a whisper to our employees that Zoom is coming. So they're starting to find it out for themselves, and they're pushing us. So the good thing is we're making it so they actually want to go to this service. So we'll be pushing them out pretty fast, and the big push will be next year. If you've been to New York Times Square, we have a pretty large tower. That's our main studio. CNBC shoots all their stuff there. And it's kind of the headquarters for listing companies. When we open the market every day, it's all done there in Times Square. So we're going to expand to the 10th floor next year. And we've been directed by Dina Friedman, our CEO. That is going to be a showcase. So when a client comes in to IPO, it's going to be their names everywhere. So in the Zoom rooms, we're going to be able to do that. Now we can't do that. We can't put it everywhere when they walk into the room. The other thing is when clients come in, they will be able to have video calls back to their home base. We'll be able to do webinars, and if they're doing a speech or for their IPO, we can broadcast that back to those clients in an easier manner than we do now. Now we have to hire an outside company to do a webcast or something. We'll be able to do that all internal. Since we're going to be building it out next year, and Zoom is, relatively young company, they're coming up with stuff constantly. So we're excited to build these rooms from scratch with Zoom's help. We have a lot of 4-panel rooms from an older codec system that's going away. So we're going to build all these new rooms out from scratch, and we're really looking forward to the design. And this is kind of a fun time to be with NASDAQ. We've always just been budget conscious, just get the listing companies in and that's it. We're changing our business. We're more client focused. And yeah, the innovation is key for us. So it's going to be a fun time. And then when we build the 26th, 27th, 28th floor, we're going to move all our New York sites to this location. That's when we'll put a new boardroom in. We're going to put sit rooms in. So some of the stuff we're seeing out here today, we're already thinking about how we can integrate that into our rooms. And it's just going to be a fun time.
It is. That's cool.
That's great. So I'm going to open the floor up in just a moment to any audience questions. Before that, I know this has come up in previous sessions like this last year, for example. Probably very top of mind for you, Greg, with new rooms being planned and going out. And Christopher, yours are mostly deployed, but I imagine you're still deploying more every day. How are you planning and designing those? Are you going with a standard build? I always use this camera, this computer, this mic. Are you being more diverse based upon room size and makeup? And what did you learn from some of our partners out there on the floor today and some of the components you're seeing? And are those going to play factors in your rooms moving forward?
Yeah, so we now have a problem because we like a lot of the stuff here. So our standards may have just changed a little bit just by looking at what we have. So we do have a standard base for a 6 to 12 or a huddle room. We don't have a standard for our bigger rooms because we know those are going to be more custom. But for our huddle and 6 to 12 person rooms, we do have a standard. It's a little bit different here in the US than it is in Europe. Just because of the availability of certain products. So some are easier to get here and not over there. But yeah, now we have a huge issue because you guys have too much here that excites us, especially with working with facilities, and they've been asking us, hey, can your rooms detect how many people are in it so we can size them better and we can put that out there. And we're like, well, no, we haven't seen any of that until today. So I already sent that back to our facilities guys. And the good thing is that they'll probably help me pay for it, so I don't have to do it all myself. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
How about you, Christopher? How's your room designs been done in the past and moving forward?
Yeah, we do have a standard. I mean, sort of what Greg was saying, we're never going to throw away good equipment. I mean, you use something till it's ready to die, right? So, and then as newer stuff comes out, you may change your standard going forward and only retrofit when you go end of life. But we do have standards. Probably the biggest standards is layout and design. We are absolutely just, like hardcore on eye contact, camera placement, things like that. Your average person, they want their TV and they're thinking of watching a movie, it's up here, and then because of webcams, people just naturally want to put a camera on top of a TV, and next thing you know, it looks like a shot from the space shuttle. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's a hardcore standard. After that, it's more, this is what we suggest and propose. For our small rooms, it's 1 or 2 48 or 50-inch televisions. Doesn't matter what brand. You're all over the world. We use a Mac Mini to run it. We use an iPad Mini as the controller. We're standardizing pretty much on the Logitech Meetup, all in one. The camera, mic, voice for those rooms, and then we use the MXL. So in those rooms, we did use the MXL. Then the next size room. Medium rooms, we're usually looking at 2 televisions, 60 to 80 inches. We also run those on a Mac Mini. We also run those on an iPad Mini. For those rooms, we're using a Samsung sound bar, and we use either 2 to 5 of the MXL AC404 mics, or now that they've been released and we really like them, the MXL AC360, and for that room, we've pretty much standardized size room on the Logitech PTZ Pro 2. And then in our large rooms, we do not use an Apple to run it. We have terrible luck with Zoom and the Mac Pros. So we run those on a Lenovo. We use the Logitech Rally Cam for those. We run 3 50 to 90-inch televisions in there, and use generally 3 of the MXL 360s, and we just last week tested the Array. And then to Greg's point, the larger rooms a lot of times can have custom needs, and then they can become very non-standard very fast.
Yeah.
But the more you standardize, the easier it is. And don't let people just go out and configure their walls, because you'll get the weirdest angles you've ever seen in your life.
That's great. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? We got a runner with a mic. You want to help us out here? Thank you.
Hey, I had a question for Greg. What sorts of compliance and security issues did you have when deploying Zoom in the first place, and how did you overcome those?
Compliance wasn't too difficult. We had our InfoSec look at everything. The cloud, just going into the cloud, we have a whole department that deals with our cloud, and it started with AWS was where they really first went into it. I'd say we kind of looked at it more as a voice solution. So voice is pretty open. We did tunnel it in. We have separate VLANs for everything, for video. What we don't do is we don't allow recording into the cloud. We keep that away and keep that on-prem. We do have some groups that do want to have that. So they'll be responsible for the information that's out there. We just kind of shy away from storing any information. And the same thing with when we go into the chats and stuff like that, we bring that all back to on-prem. The good thing is that if we do record the meetings, it just records right to your laptop, right, and you can put it wherever you want. For the cloud recording, if you do have it in cloud, in the future, what we might do is just have them load it straight onto a database that we service. Or if Zoom comes out with BYOK, then we'll do a new discussion, and then I think we'll be more open to storing it in the cloud. It's just, that's the issue. We want our own database out there. We want BYOK.
Right.
And that's kind of how we got around it.
Yeah, one more on the left here.
And then someone over here.
Were you, check, are you video cultures, or is that part of the journey with Zoom is to become a video culture? Were you the star phone cultures and that's where you're moving to with Zoom, or has that been a part of your cultures kind of from the beginning? Was video we started with, and we're always doing meetings, seeing each other as opposed to just the conference room or conference phone?
So we worked. We were, when we went to Zoom, we were already a video culture in our room environments. But when we started believing in video conferencing, absolutely not. That's why we had to use corporate budget seed money to go convince some skeptical P&L owners in the regions to build these rooms, because they didn't think they'd be used and they didn't see the benefit, and we did, so we helped pay for them. Once we went to Zoom, we were absolutely in a video culture in a room environment and had started to bleed over individuals, and then just the ease of access and the fact that you can have both paid and free licenses for your users, depending on what they're doing, means after Zoom, what was already a pretty strong video culture took off. But no, you gotta sell it. I mean, you gotta tell people the advantage and show them why, and then seed some money and get them excited. And I think it's what you said, so people started seeing it. And then once it goes, man, hold on, because you better keep up.
Yeah, and that's to echo Chris, we're really changing the culture of NASDAQ. We are very video-centric for our executives. They have EVP calls. All their calls are video all the time. But anything under that from VP below, rarely is it. They have it accessible to them. They just don't use it because it's a pain. With the scheduling, they just don't want to have to deal with it. The executives, they have executive admins, so they have to deal with it. So yeah, just moving, once we push out Zoom more, we know we're going to get flooded, and that's why we're doing a controlled push, because yeah, we're going to get crushed when it finally goes out.
So I know we're a couple minutes over now, and I know we're between you and happy hour. So
Not till 5.
that is true. But yeah, I think we're a couple more.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay and ask some
Yeah.
more questions. We'll hang out a little longer for you all, but don't feel like you need to stay. If you want to go grab a drink, we'll meet you out there shortly.
Yeah, so this is a quick question for Greg, because a lot of things you said hit base for where I'm at with the financial organization. On-prem, we're getting our feet with the cloud stuff. In terms of compliance on like the physical device that the Zoom room is running on, how do you guys get past encryption, antivirus, all that kind of stuff that runs?
So we actually made an image. We had our Windows 10 guys create an image for this. So all of our machines are imaged with our NASDAQ image. So they are compliant within our system. For the encryption, all of our calls are encrypted, every single one.
Ours too.
With the exception of China. You can't, most Chinese companies or the government of China won't allow that. So we do have to get a disclaimer signed when we do any calls with China. So, but we monitor everything too. So that won't be that big of an issue. You're gonna have a fight on your hands, but just keep on, you'll get through it. It's not that bad.
I'd add to that, if you haven't talked to any of our sales engineers over in the Zoom room demos, go do. We're partnering with Dell. We'll be working with HP and other PC providers later using Windows IoT. A little lockdown, more appliance type experience with Zoom Room preloaded on it. So that's becoming very popular in the finance sectors and other highly regulated industries where we can go to a machine that's more locked down, more appliance type by using IoT now with Zoom Rooms.
Yep, that's what I learned earlier today too. So we're actually going to go back to our InfoSec security team and see what they think of the IoT. We have a solution now, but we'd rather do that just to get away from any of like patching issues and stuff. Luckily with Windows 10, we pull our units out so that they're only done over the weekend. And we control it a little bit more. And then with the Zoom rooms, they'll reboot over the weekend automatically, So
And
we're
that's a
actually in
change for you
better-
guys, right?
It
I think
is.
you told me with your old in-house solution, people would be in the middle of a meeting and they get a
A
pop-up and
pop-up
it
will
might
come up.
reboot their
Yeah,
computer.
asking, it'll just be a little checkbox for, you can ignore it or whatever, but you've seen them, and yeah, that's great when we have an executive in a room and that pops up. So, yeah, no more of that.
And we kind of, I mean, we're a Microsoft shop. I mean, the only, other than a handful of executives, the only Apple products other than phones in our enterprise are what run the Zoom rooms. But they're completely separate, segregated from the rest of the network. And we use some Apple remote management tools, and we manage it as its own environment. So while it obviously has to be patched and up to date, I can kind of keep it separate from my GCC and PCI and audits and all of that kind of stuff due to the network segregation.
Any other questions? All right, thank
Thank
you all
you all
very
for
much.
coming.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
it.